Shalom, and welcome to Psychology of the Parsha for Parshat Mishpatim. Parshat Mishpatim begins with the words Ve'ela HaMishpatim Asher Tasim Lifneihem. And these are the laws of justice which you shall set before them. What way is this to open a narrative? And these are. Well, the sages tell us that God is implying to us, in fact, not just implying, but stressing the fact that even these pursuant laws of justice that we're going to study about, these matter of civil justice, and when we use the word justice, we mean things that have a justification. Things, matters that make sense. Even if they don't initially, at first encounter, make sense, but it's something that a person can appreciate the rationale and the meaning of. Even these things, says the Torah, you should know that they are connected. They are and they come to connected to something before. What happened before? Well, last week's Parsha, we learned about the revelation at Mount Sinai and how God gave the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, and then later said to Moshe, you will remain here and I will teach you the rest of the laws. And here God is stressing the fact, Hashem is telling us that even the Mishpatim, even those laws which have, so to speak, a human justification, which the mind can understand and appreciate, even those laws, they come directly from Sinai. Just like a Jew keeps Shabbat, and ultimately, with all the explanations that one could explain away why and how important it is to keep Shabbat, at the end of the day, you're keeping Shabbat is because God said so. Or many other mitzvot in the Torah, which one would never ever come up with that idea or the thought of it even on their own. These, says the Torah, have to be exactly the same. They have to be observed in the same manner. That this we keep because God said so. Now, why is this so important? Why is this the first order of business right after receiving the Torah? And the answer is really so fundamental that that's why Hashem chose this. And here it is. Typically, in the normal psyche of the human being, you have basically two types of people. You have the person who does things because of faith, or because that's the way it is, without any particular rationale. In other words, the person submits themselves to something higher than themselves, whether it's faith in God, whether it's faith in just the norm of society. And the person doesn't necessarily seek for it to make sense. On the contrary, they're happy with the fact, they're content with the fact that this is the way it is. They've subscribed to it. You like it, you don't like it, it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. This is the way it is. Then you have the pragmatic person, the rational human being, which actually makes more sense. It says, look, yes, if you're going to obligate me to follow a certain law, or if I live in a country and that's the law of the land, well, I have no choice. But when it comes to virtues, or when it comes for me to voluntarily subscribe to a certain way of thinking, I first want to find out what it means, and if and how it makes sense. And then, I'm a willing participant. But I'm not going to subscribe to it blindly. I am not going to just submit myself out of faith. It doesn't make sense. I'm a human being. I have what no other being in this world has. I have the means, the ability to reason, to rationalize. And I'm certainly going to live my life in a healthy manner consistent with that. Over here, Hashem says, the real object of a Jew and a Jew living his or her life in accordance with the Torah is to fuse the two of them together. You need to appreciate that these laws are Mishpatim. They're laws of justice. And therefore you need to understand them and get down to the root of them and understand the rationale. At the same time, you need to observe them because they come from Sinai. Because God said so. Perhaps, I would suggest, that this is one of the difficulties, this is one of the issues that throughout the generations people have with the Jewish people. In the one hand, we're known as Am Navon V'Chacham, a nation of wisdom and understanding. As we're known, the people of the book. And on the other hand, or at the same time, and not separate from this, but rather, like I said, fused together, we have what is typically considered as blind faith. And this is really it. And in truth, anytime we study Torah, these ideas, these two different approaches have to come together. In the one hand, we study the Torah as something so sacred, directly given from God. In fact, you're not allowed to study Torah before you make a blessing, or at least in the beginning of the day, on thanking God for giving us the Torah and allowing us to study His Torah. At the same time, you can't just study and say, well, if that's what it says here, certainly it's correct because that's what God said. No, you need to understand it. And certainly if you're going to make a ruling based on it, or make decisions based on what you're reading, you need to fully, thoroughly understand it in your human understanding, and that's when you can make a decision. Shabbat Shalom.